Hey guys, what is going on? Jake here, and today we are out testing to see the difference between a $400 GoPro and what cost me over the last year about $2,500, the camera you guys are seeing right now. About 6 times the price. Is it 6 times better? Today we're gonna go out and find out. Alright guys, so the whole point of today is I want to see if my $400 GoPro, a much cheaper setup, is basically 6 times less in quality and able to make videos 6 times worse than the setup that you're seeing right here. So obviously this is a Panasonic G9. It's an awesome camera. 4K 24, 4K 60, 180 frames 1080, but it has a lot of features that the GoPro doesn't have. I mean, the GoPro only has really one angle that you can shoot at. It can do all of the same frame rates and actually some better frame rates, but there's a lot of differences between these two cameras, and today I kind of want to highlight them, and I just want us to see, I'm really impressed with the new GoPro. I want us to see if it's actually 6 times less able to make really cool videos. So let's hop onto it. Alright guys, so before we begin, I want to lay down some ground rules. I'm going to try to shoot everything as wide as possible on this camera to kind of match the look of this camera. We'll do some comparisons later where we actually talk about zooming in with the nicer camera. It makes a huge difference, but in order to compare the video quality the best, I'm going to shoot in what is called exposure mode. So obviously the GoPro has what is called a fixed aperture, which means it's going to manually try to make the brightness look a little bit better, a little bit worse, all internally, all automatic, and I want to do the same thing with my nice camera, which is definitely kind of taking away from some of its potential, but I want us to mostly focus on image quality and stabilization and just other key features that both of these cameras have and really see what we're able to compare between the two of them. Okay guys, so the first test is just a basic image quality check. We're going to shoot 4K 24 with both cameras, GoPro and this one. Carly's going to kind of walk out by the river, and we're just going to see at a basic high level, how does the image quality compare? In my experience, it's been pretty close, but let's take a little look. Okay, so here you can see I've got both of them next to each other, and guys, the framing is definitely different between the two of them. The GoPro is obviously much wider. You can see all the way down to Carly's feet in this shot versus the Panasonic, which definitely is kind of cutting some of her off. But just looking at the overall image quality, let's compare and kind of do a little bit of pixel peeping on the actual final result. It's probably going to be surprisingly close for this test. All right guys, so this next test is to just have Carly walk, and we're going to test the stabilization at 24 frames with the G9. So go ahead, Car, and just see how stable we can get this to look at just a walking pace. Stabilization in this camera is pretty ridiculous, but the GoPro stabilization has definitely impressed me in a lot of ways more than the stabilization in this camera. Alrighty, and now guys, we're doing the same shot with the GoPro. Car, go ahead. Obviously this is a much wider shot. I'm trying to frame it somewhat close, but as you guys can see, the new stabilization in the new GoPro is really crazy. And this is just walking. We will do a running / jogging test next. And here is our next test. We're going to do just a light jog. The Panasonic should look pretty crappy in comparison to the GoPro, but let's just compare the difference. All right, go, Car. Doing my ninja run to try and make it like look sort of halfway decent. Alrighty, and now we are going with the GoPro to do a little light jog test. Go for it, babe. Guys, this should look a lot better. I'm not even ninja walking. I'm just kind of holding it, running side to side. How did the stabilization turn out? All right, guys, so far we're mostly just kind of trying to compare the image quality of both cameras, not really giving much of an advantage to either in terms of the actual differences that each has. But let's dive into those differences right now. So right now we're gonna do a 4K 60 test, so we can do sort of the 40% slow motion test, and we're going to compare the quality of the video and just kind of the overall stability, how good it looks, how cinematic it looks. Let's do that test right now. All right guys, for our next test, we are doing a color comparison. So we've got a little bit of this nice yellow color in the background. We've got Carly's really blue jacket. When I color grade these images, basically how good does the color look in comparison with the Panasonic versus the GoPro. All right guys, so in this shot, this is a great example of the bokeh effect. I'm going to raise my exposure a tiny bit. As you can see, the leaves right here in the middle of the foreground, nice and in focus, but the leaves and the bridge in the background are nice and blurry. And when we do the exact same shot on the GoPro, this is a super wide angle, but basically, as you can see, it's really hard to get close to the leaves and have them look actually that decent. The GoPro needs a little bit of distance between its stuff, and everything behind it is in focus. There's none of that blurry cinematic background. All right guys, and here it is, another example. Carly just looking off at the river. You can see how her face is nice and in focus, but other stuff behind it is definitely a little bit more blurry. Now when we do it with the GoPro, you can see the exact same thing. Everything behind her, unfortunately, is actually in focus, nice and sharp, and there's really none of that bokeh effect going on. All right guys, so the next thing I want to test is the slow frame rate options on this camera. We did 60 frames, slowed it down, but what if we do the extra super slow motion options? So the GoPro can do 120 frames, full HD, so 1080. It can also do 240 frames, 1080. The Panasonic can only do 180 frames, 1080, and I say only very lightly because 180 frames per second gets you ridiculous, awesome, cool looking slow motion. So let's just do a quick little slow motion comparison, and let's check the video quality between those. 4K, maybe not as much of a difference, but with these cameras doing their slow motion, I bet we're gonna see quite a difference in quality. Alright guys, and now for the big elephant in the room, the vlogging test. Okay, so one thing that I always hear guys talk about when they do the vlogging test is, you know, could you actually vlog on a GoPro? I did a little video where I did an entire vlog on the GoPro, and I was really impressed. I thought it looked great. Image quality, for sure, you can definitely get away with, in my opinion. The big difference is kind of the look and the ability to actually have pretty decent audio. The GoPro's audio is much better. We're gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna try to just make these sound as absolutely best as I can so you guys get the best representation of how good both of them can sound. The GoPro sounds really good. I've been really impressed with its audio, but you have a mirrorless type camera with a nice microphone jack, a screen that pops out, a good lens. It's really easy to hook in that microphone and get really, really good sounding audio. You guys will hear it here. That goes without saying, the GoPro, you can get the adapter to hook in a better microphone. That is totally something you can do. But the nice thing is this only costs $400. I'm not having to spend any extra money, whereas with this camera, you have to pay extra for the microphone. And I just want to compare them, right? I mean, we just want to see how good the audio is for the GoPro straight out of camera versus the Panasonic with the actual additional microphone in the equation. So, how does that look? Also, you guys are gonna notice that the look is just a lot different. I can still get kind of that blurry background with the DSLR mirrorless type camera with a good lens. With the GoPro, everything's gonna be in focus. You're gonna be able to see so much more of me. And, you know, that's kind of just the differences between the two. I think the GoPro can pass it off, but you are going to get a very distinct look from a mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses. Whew. All right, guys, we're back on the dual vlog setup. It's so hard to hold two cameras at the exact same time. The exposure is probably a little rough because the sun is behind me, but one additional thing too that I wanted to talk about really quick is that the GoPro is actually waterproof, and this is a feature that could be incredibly valuable to some people. The Panasonic, while weather sealed, can definitely handle the elements with my 12-35 lens. It's not, I can't throw it in the river. I can't get super crazy with it, whereas the GoPro is perfect for outdoor stuff. So they both have their pros and cons. Another thing to keep in mind, 6 times better. It's a pretty cool feature, especially if you're into outdoor stuff. You probably could definitely have a huge advantage for the GoPro on this one. All right, guys, vlogging on the GoPro, just so you know which camera I'm using. One final big elephant in the room that we of course need to talk about, and that is with a camera like this, I have an awesome lens on here, the Panasonic 12-35 constant f2.8. This is a beast of a lens for video. It's by far my favorite video lens, not my favorite photography lens, but for sure my favorite video lens, and that is this little thing right here. I can change the zoom on this camera. With the GoPro, you can technically zoom in before you shoot, but it's not actual zoom, right? Like, this is not affecting my image quality to zoom in. With the GoPro, it's doing digital zoom, and it's not the same thing. So personally, I just never use it, and I just chalk the GoPro as basically having one fixed look, whereas with this camera, you can get lots of different looks. So we're gonna take full advantage of that right now. I'll do kind of the same little sequence with both cameras, but you're gonna see just how much cooler of a look you can get from this camera versus this guy. So anyway, let's dive right on into a little cinematic B-roll sequence with this guy, and then we'll try and mimic it with the GoPro, and you guys will see the difference. So let's jump on to it. As you can tell from those kind of sequences, the GoPro is severely limited in the fact that it can only shoot really, really wide at those higher resolutions. You can crop it in a little bit and make it look a little more natural at 2.7K, but, or no, sorry, at even 1080, 2.7 and 1080, but that really wasn't the point of today. I kind of wanted to just compare them and kind of show you the differences, because the real advantage that you get from something like this camera that I'm shooting on right now is those interchangeable lenses, is the ability to have that cinematic shallow depth of field. I mean, if you guys haven't paid attention to this, next time you watch a movie, really pay attention to the focus, because this is something that they love doing in movies, is whoever is talking is not blurry and the other people are maybe a little bit blurred, or the background is almost always blurry. I mean, it's just kind of a movie thing to do. So if you want that look, you do have to get a better setup. Now, obviously there are a lot of much more affordable setups. You don't need a crazy mirrorless camera to do this, but I just wanted to compare basically my professional setup with a GoPro today, I'll probably do a follow-up video and tell you guys kind of what I would recommend. A great camera is the one I started with, which is the Panasonic G7. That's the camera I actually recently sold to Kyle to just kind of graduate, move on to a little bit of a nicer camera. But yeah, this idea, these looks are definitely not price dependent. Most of the time they are going to cost more, but a GoPro's $400. You can get the G7 for about $500. And you're gonna get something very similar to this. You might not have as much slow motion options, you know, not as many card slots. Some other features are definitely missing in terms of image quality, ability to adjust certain things, tools to help you shoot your shots. For around the same price, you can get this look. So if you guys are starting a channel, I would say it definitely depends. Obviously, I have both because I'm kind of a nerd and a nut with this stuff and love having both, and having a GoPro is incredibly useful for an outdoorsy channel. I mean, if you want to do anything outside, it's definitely a sweet thing to have, and it's kind of a necessity. I mean, water, elements, you kind of need a GoPro for some of this stuff because this camera can do things that just this one cannot. But for those looks that I just showed you guys, kind of have to have something like this. There's not really a way to get that with the GoPro, and that's just unfortunately kind of the way that it is. Let's cruise on home. We'll do a little bit more analysis between the footage. I'll talk about it in the office just so that we can really kind of pixel peep and do some closer looks at it. And I think Carly and I are gonna go grab some food because we haven't eaten yet today. So we will go do that, and we will catch you guys when I get back home. Okay.
Meditation through the yoga lessons, going greener by the minute. Soon I can't wear any